repeatedly tell us that fixing housing is your #1 priority. So people have waited for the big initiative, for some idea that you might bring forward to turn the tide of this emergency. God knows we've endured your government's directionless approach since you came to office, misleading on housing delivery, beds in sheds, your madcap housing czar idea, really leaving people wondering, would you ever bring forward a substantive proposal? And now, finally, we have it, and you've certainly outdone yourself this time. Because your first major action in housing is to enable big landlords to hike up extortionate rents even further. At a time when government should be acting to cut rents and to ban rent increases, at a time when people across the state fork out on average new rent of €2,000 a month. Here in Dublin, of course, rent can hit €3,000 per month or even higher. But instead, you create a new opportunity for tens of thousands of landlords to jack up their rents. Now, you've made much of the intention to extend the 2% cap to existing tenancies throughout the state. Can I just say to you, Taoiseach, go ahead and do that. Let's do that this week. Because it's clear that that measure is in fact to hide your blushes as you provide landlords with the chance to hike up rents in the here and now, and as you provide yet another sweetheart deal to investment funds to build expensive rental property and charge extortionate rent. That's the real intention of these measures. You say or claim that landlords will only be allowed to reset rent to the market rate if a tenant leaves voluntarily. Well, Taoiseach, tens of thousands of renters leave tenancies voluntarily every single year. So under your proposals, as one renter walks out the door, they will be replaced by another whose rent will have ballooned. Students will be amongst the first hit by your actions. Finding affordable rental accommodation has been a constant struggle for students and their families, but you are now ensuring that this will be even harder, that students and their families will be ripped off even more every year. And worse still, Taoiseach, you explicitly allow all existing landlords to reset rent to full market rate every 6 years. That is essentially the death knell of rent pressure zones. So your plan isn't about protecting or giving stability to renters. It's about allowing corporate landlords, vultures, property funds to hike up rents. Large landlords that have already got sweetheart tax breaks on their rent roll and on their capital gains tax liability. Fianna Fáil on the side of the big boys. Who'd have thunk it? When you cut through the verbiage, this is just a plan to hike up rents. Some in the here and now, others at a future date. Rents need to be cut, to come down, not to go up. And rent increases should be banned, not facilitated by government. So, Taoiseach, you need to think again, because renters have had enough. They can't pay anymore, and government should not be forcing them into this position.
Could I say at the outset that the reforms announced today of the rental sector will strengthen the rights of new and existing tenants in Irish society, and that is a central part of the reform. And those reforms have been informed by the Housing Agency Review, which of course stemmed from the Housing Commission report, which the Deputy Opposite endorsed at the time. All the parties opposite endorsed the Housing Commission report, which pointed to the need for reform of the rent pressure zones. The Deputy Opposite and the Sinn Féin party are very disappointed with the announcement today. They condemned it in advance of seeing the detail. Now they've changed tack hurriedly. Last March, I was told we were going to get rid of RPZs altogether. Every one of you said it, and we are not. And we are not. What we're doing is extending it. It's becoming a national framework now in terms of rent pressure zones. And the evidence has pointed to those areas outside rent pressure zones being under pressure because of that very fact. So we're correcting that in terms of making it a national protective framework. Existing tenants are capped at 2%. You know that, Deputy. You say the opposite here. You just tell untruths with abandon. With abandon. Existing tenants will be capped at 2%. And that's the reality of it. And for those 4 tenancies above, there's an effective end to no-fault eviction. I mean, that's the bottom line. And yet you come in all sound and fury. But to a certain extent, there's an incredible incoherence in terms of Sinn Féin policy and housing. As Deputy Owner Brynja Housing spokesperson, he will meet all the property interests. I have a list again of who we've lately, 30th of April, the Property Industry Ireland, I bet he meets them. Why? For what purpose?
Deputies.
For what purpose? To introduce incentives for investors to catalyse apartment construction. Deputy Mary Lou McDonald comes in today and says, you're only interested in institutional investors. Your spokesperson has been meeting them on an ongoing basis. Such hypocrisy will not cut it with the people. The bottom line is this. This is a balanced set of proposals. The Housing Agency report was published. It had about 4 options. The government has gone with the option in terms of adapting the existing RPZ because they would expire by the end of the year if nothing was done. And this is, I believe, a strong measure in terms of protection, but also then in terms of new. We do need to incentivise future investment in new apartment buildings and in housing. And I would put it to the Deputy, the state is the lead investor at the moment, with 7 billion plus. The Department of Finance is saying we need about 20 billion to get to 50,000 houses per annum for a sustained period of time. Now, where do people think we're going to get the 20 billion from? Is anybody seriously suggesting,
Deputy O'Brien,
seriously suggesting that the state will pony up the 20 billion? Which Sinn Féin said we'll triple social housing, we'll triple this without telling us how we're going to get the money. And this is very fundamental. We need public sector investment. We also need private sector investment, and we need to protect tenants. And Minister James Brown has done that today with his package. It's extremely disappointing to Sinn Féin because it's not what they thought it would be. You never anticipated that we'd have the no-fault eviction for 4 tenancies. You never anticipated that we would make it a national protection framework because last March you declared to all and sundry we were getting rid of it completely. That's the language you use.
Deputies.
It's the language of exaggerate, tell untruth after untruth.
Please.
And you know what? People might believe us. People might believe us. That's what you're about. But what I'm about solutions. I'm about solutions. Sinn Féin is about exploiting the housing problem and crisis to whatever degree possible for its own political advantage.
Is on her feet. Please, Deputy.
So what you're about, Taoiseach, is screwing renters. You're about doing it very, very brazenly. And then you want to try and distract from that fact. Go ahead and extend the 2% cap across the state. Do it. Do it. Do that. We'll support you in doing that, right? I don't think anyone will object to that. But that does not disguise the actual intent and the effect in the here and now and in the long term of what you are about to do, because it is being gutted, the rent pressure zone provisions. So existing tenancies, let me read to you your own words. All landlords will have the right to reset rent where the rent is below market value at the end of each 6-year tenancy. There you have it. There you go. That's it. They're your words. I've raised with you the issue of turnover tenancies, you know, where people voluntarily exit the tenancy. That happens tens of thousands of times every year. And I have told you, amongst the first really hit hard with this will be students. And I would like you to respond. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. This is the import of your proposal. And the disappointing thing, Taoiseach, is everybody knows that rents are extortionate at this point. The job of responsible government is to ensure a cut in rents, to ban rent increases, and instead, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael want to facilitate the jacking up of...
Now, please.
This government wants to increase the supply of houses to get to 50,000 per annum. The proposals of Sinn Féin, be it a rent ban, be it whatever the Deputy has said, would actually reduce supply. You have no ideas. You have no solutions. That's your problem. And the people saw that last time out. You don't have it because you don't accept there's any role for the market at all. And that is a fundamental problem in terms of your presentation on this issue. And I stress again, existing tenants will be capped at 2%. new tenants in new supply,
Deputies,
new tenants in new supply will be capped at the CPI level. So the caps are retained. The framework. Look, I didn't interrupt again, but this is standard practice with Sinn Féin.
I accept
because Sinn Féin is interested in just throwing untruth after untruth across the House, and they're not prepared to listen to the truth. You're not the leader yet, Deputy. You're not the leader.
Their time is Taoiseach. Thank you.
Look, the deputy,
Thank you, Taoiseach.
the deputy's opposite. They're into performance. They're not into substance.
Thank you, Taoiseach.